Honourable Minister, many thanks for making time to speak to us. Just give us a sense of what the National Child Policy means. I mean, you just came out today at the Media Centre to just expound more on this particular initiative. If someone wasn't there, just walk us through what it actually means.
Thank you. Since time immemorial, can I say since 2004, the country has been governed, particularly the docket of children, has been governed using the policy only covering people are orphans and children with disabilities. So to speak, the Office of the Vulnerable Children. So this time round, in 2015, we said, no, let us expound it, okay, to include children from well-to-do families and children from all walks of life, to ensure that they all benefit equally, because they are subject to abuse, they can be raped, they can be denied education even when the parents are wealthy. So to speak, that we are shifting from concentrating on a section of children to a broad spectrum.
Uganda is no country that, well, we're very famous for having a quite good constitution, and of course alluding to the 90s when this was drafted in the mid-90s, and it pains me to hear that in 2020 is when we've come up with this policy to guide children in a very youthful state. Give me a sense of what took this long.
No. A policy is informed by changes in society, the cultural changes. For example, when you say that there's more of defilement and child abuse and domestic violence, you come up to regulate and pre-inform and make a policy to make sure that it's rectified, and it informs the law. So the law in general addresses all forms of child abuse, no matter when they ever happen, where, when, what. But now the policy comes up to make it more practical, depending on what is at the season. Certainly, these are all factors of development. There are E factors like child abuse, sexual harassment that match with the season, as opposed to the early 1995s, the early 90s, when much of the ICT was still at a low pace. Yeah. So we change according to the changes globally and nationally. Yeah.
Let's talk about, I would want to say it's an elephant in the room, because we have a huge number of refugees in the country. I was reading a UNHCR report showing that our tally right now of children who are actually refugee children, is close to 90,000 of them. Is this something that is being addressed in the National Child Policy that you've actually come up with?
Yeah, pretty much, because you know that Uganda is one of the #1 refugee destination countries in the world, and that's why of recent we hosted the World Refugee Summit. So to speak, that in the past 5 years we had close to 2 million children refugees flowing into the country, and this is primarily a symbol of peace and a good environment to live in, especially when you're considering the cooperation with our neighboring countries like Congo and Southern Sudan. However, having said that, the policy addresses children in refugee settlements, both host communities and the refugees themselves, by ensuring that they have protection, they have shelter, they have education, and they have health. So to speak, that we are trying to equate them to the children within the country, and also adhere to the international protocols that govern us with the rest of the world.
Many reports have definitely come out. 2014, there was another one from the Human Rights Watch. Of course, lots of cases of rape, cases of defilement, and it's good that the framework is here right now. But then the pressing question for me would be, who gets to enforce it? You have an environmental policy, environmental lobbyists who are out there. They draft all these good policies, the good laws are there. But when it comes to enforcement, we're seeing close to, the other day someone was saying that I think NEMA has close to 100 people, you know, in terms of manpower to enforce. Who gets to enforce this?
Sure. But lack of enforcement now is no longer in my docket. You have seen that get it wrong with children, you'll be immediately gotten to, because in the children's docket now we have reinforced the enforcement has been strengthened to ensure that, first of all, the probation officers in the districts are well equipped. They have the tablets that were provided by the donor partners. They can instantly answer 116, so that we have regional centers that address issues to do with child abuse. So all these were enacted, that right now, if you're listening and you're tuning into NTV, you can just dial 116 paramedics. If you suspect that a child is about to be in danger, the child is shouting next door, you call, and multilingual actually, that all over the country you can be answered and attended to instantly. We have the family units in police. We have actually 3 ministries: the Kampala Metropolitan Ministry, we have the Internal Affairs, we also have the local government. We work together when it comes to issues of children. So I would say that it's not in the Ministry of Gender. When you talk about enforcement, we are on top of the game.
Right. Finally, I would have to ask you about sensitization, because you have a bit of a divide. You have an older guard, which believes I was caned, I get to cane my child, and I don't mean with a slipper. I mean something that's way harder, maybe as big as my arm. Then you have a new guard, you know, that is maybe millennials and way younger, and they're maybe okay with going to the naughty corner, you know, that kind of thing. How hard is it for your docket to kind of be the conduit between the two, and you have to address the older guard and the younger guard? How hard is that soft spot?
Sure, that's a good question. We developed the parenting guidelines after realizing that there is a gap in ideology. You look at someone who said, I walked 10 miles to go to school, and now you want me to take you to school, you know, get by get. So we said, no, let us bridge the gap, the cross-generation gap, by developing a tool. So we developed a toolkit that every parent is supposed to know, and we disseminated it across the board. So you can look at that and then make sure that you adhere to that, because failure to adhere to that means you're breaching the law, and thereby you're under child abuse, where corporal punishment is addressed. I mean, even getting drunk in front of a child is child abuse. So all those are highlighted.
But do people know these things? Because you're mentioning things to me right now, and I'm thinking that is good, but I didn't know that. I did not know that, rather.
Yes.
Do people know these things?
You're right, but now we're going to start disseminating the policy, but we have been ensuring that the CDOs, the community development officers, are being empowered enough. That's when we requested for more money from the Ministry of Finance to ensure that we incriminate. That can teach a lesson to many of the parents who are simply saying, the child is mine. Why do you come in as Nakiwala to regulate? The child is mine. But I have to let them know that as soon as someone is born, the person becomes the property of the state. So you cannot kill the child, you can't do anything. So from now on, they should know that there are guidelines that regulate your relationship with the child. The child is away from danger in terms of protection, education, health, nutrition, and even information. Who is my father? Who is my mother? Should you deny the child the right to know the right father, then you're under the law, you're ultra-vires to the law. And should you do it even deliberately, I mean, you'll face the law. And women do this a lot. But also the men keep denying, even when they tell you that this child is yours, then you keep denying around. So equally, both of those parties do violate the law. And those that use children for work, you know that's under the penal code. It's aiding and abetting, as also under child labor. It's also an offense. So either way, whatever relationship you have with a child, make sure that you adhere to the guidelines governing the parent with a child and also the child policy.